And good morning, everybody. We're live. Congratulations, you made it through the week. It's Friday, St. Patrick's Day. Beautiful day here in Colorado. The sun is shining. It's kind of cold, but it's really nice. So if you're new to the Food Safety Chat, welcome. Pull up a chair and join us for an hour of a conversation around food safety. My name is Bryan Armentrout, and I'm a consultant in Colorado with the Food Leadership Group. And every week I bring an expert in food safety on the chat, and we have a conversation around food safety. So if you're new, what you're going to notice is that this is not a presentation. This is not us, lecturing to you on different topics. This is meant to be interactive. And I think today is going to be super interactive. And I really, really encourage everybody to put your comments. See if I can get this right. You have to point the opposite way. So make sure and put your comments in and let us know your experiences in this field, because this one I think is going to be a ton of fun. And I love having my guest on today, Melody Gee with Starkist. How are you doing today, Melody?
I'm good. Thank you, Bryan, for having me on the show. First of all, I thank you very much to host this show. It really becomes an iconic in the
Oh,
community. Hear a lot from the friends, learn a lot from each guest host, and then today is my honor to be on the show and discuss today's topic with you.
oh,
Thank you.
stop it. Stop it. I mean, it just kind of goes to show, and if you're someone who's on the show regularly, like Cheryl, nice to see you this morning, Cheryl. One of the things that's super, super important, and we hear it all the time, but I think practicing it is really important. And this gets into what we talk about food safety culture and these things too, is food safety is not a point of competition, right? This is something that we're all in together, and we need to help each other out for food safety. It really doesn't matter what company you work for. I mean, so I think you and I, Melody, are a perfect example of this, because we've known each other for a long time. And we've, there have been opportunities for each of us to kind of help each other out and do things. And that's how these things should work. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We realize that an hour out of your day to listen to this is a lot of time out of a work week. So you're investing in your growth, you're investing in your company, and you're investing in food safety. So thank you. So when when we were talking and getting ready for the chat here this morning, Melody said, "Bryan, where's your green? There's no green, and it's St. Patrick's Day." And I'm like, oh, all right. So I look around, and so I found, all right. So Frank's book here, sitting above me is green. So we'll do this. We'll give Frank a plug there, right? So
There we
there we
go.
go. There's my green.
Yeah.
Does that count? I don't know. Does that count? Sure, why not? We're off to a great start here. Megan, Ryan, good to see you guys here this morning. Some new faces too as well. Maureen, thank you for joining us. Cara, God, I love to see Cara on here. Allie out in San Diego. I work with Allie a lot. Allie's awesome. She's very good at what she does. Brandon, Karen, and of course, Jennifer. Good morning to you as well. So one of the things, Melody, that I really love that you do on LinkedIn is your group, right? Women in Food Safety, which has been growing like crazy. And definitely a big shout out on that. That, I mean, it's amazing, right? And so with the women in work, right? We're all, if you're on LinkedIn, right, you're seeing all the posts from everybody. And I was like, there's no better person to talk about women in food safety than you. So with this, definitely what we want to do here in the chat here, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So as we're kind of talking about these different things here today, guys, put in your stories and put in your comments and your experiences as well, for this as well. So part of this, when we were preparing this, Melody, I just get so excited, right? Everybody, pause,
I do
and
need
join
a
us.
coffee to start the conversation, right? It's
Ah,
Friday.
what is wrong? Okay, cheers, everyone.
Cheers. And hi,
I
Austin. Hi, Robert. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, Robert's awesome too. And of course, Austin, Steve. Welcome, Steve. Good to see Steve again too. So with this, Melody, we were preparing. I mean, so quality assurance and food safety is a field where a lot of women work, right? And some of the people who have mentored me in my career and helped me along have been women. The first boss who hired me at Leprino Foods, Edith Wilkin, amazing person in food safety, and she taught me so much, right? And super grateful for her, and the career that she helped me shape and form in this field. So I'm really grateful for that. And every time I have a chance to kind of mention those, right, it's really important, because sometimes, right, we need these type of assistances, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you for recognize that. We definitely need more ambassador like you, to advocate women leadership is different, and I'm glad to hear you experience well women leadership. But
Mhm.
yeah, women food safety. The group started to pipeline the future leadership to help the community to share the challenges, good, bad, everything together. So we hope we have a comfort zone community to help the young generation. That's really the intention behind it. But
Right, and
yeah.
that's what I like about the Women in Food Safety group, right? Is it's focused right around food safety, like we do here, right? And it's also got another level of the particulars around women in food safety, right? And the challenges that can be experienced in those areas, right? And a big piece of this too, and this kind of goes into something that I talked about in my book, is that when you're successful and you're developing your skill set and people are noticing. So in my example, right, I started off as a microbiologist and I got really good at microbiology, and somebody noticed, right, and they promoted me, right? So Edith said, okay, Bryan, you're ready for the next level, let's do these things. And I think you've experienced this too, right? So we first met at SQF, right? And you develop your skills and people really began to notice that, and your career began to really grow and grow to where you're at now. And that skill set, Melody, that single contributor skill set, and this applies to everyone, right? That single contributor skill set that got you a promotion and got you to a manager level position, everything changes. So now all of a sudden you're a manager, right? And you're sitting just like you're doing, right? You're sitting in your office and they give you a computer and they say, okay, congratulations, Melody, you're now the director. Hi, have a nice day, right? And off they go. And you're left sitting there going, oh, okay, right? What do I do now? And I'd be curious to see what people have to say in the comments, but really there's very little training then, right? There's no HR course for new managers and companies, right? It's you're kind of on your own.
Yeah, it's quite a shift, I think. I completely agree. Like beforehand, at the early stage to mid career stage, technical skill gets you some certain stage, but afterward, you do need a mindset transition and you do need a skill sets transition to get further.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we did last year for the community Women in Food Safety is we invited a lot of female VPs, executives to share their stories.
Mm-hmm.
However, each person is different because the leaders definitely built on their own personality. So we really need to find out our own what works for us to sustain. I do agree with you on a lot of the unknown once you got put in the office. Here's my personal opinion. I think technical skills are still important.
Oh, okay.
Regardless where you go, we still need to keep up to date with the new regulations, new food safety controls. However, the higher position you went, the more soft skill and business mindset you will need to build in, and then keep the balance out of it.
Wow.
Another thing,
Oh,
yeah, and
super
another thing
important.
super. And another thing I learned from my previous boss or mentor is people,
Mm-hmm.
especially where nowadays talk about food safety food safety culture. So how we utilize our people, how we utilize each team member's expertise, maximize their expertise within your team. I think that's more important as a leader to grow further, and that will ultimately bring the value to the business.
Right. And as part of that recognition of that skill set, and you're 100% right. The technical skills need to be continued, and there's the things that make you to the next level. But those interactive skills of dealing with other people then becomes really, really important. And there's all kinds of different layers, right? And Melody, we've seen this all over the place, right? All right, what's your personality type? Myers-Briggs, and I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, and all these type of things. And we see this all over the place. It's almost like it's kind of not fair analogy, but it kind of applies in some ways. It's kind of almost like your horoscope or things like this. Oh, you're an Aries and these type, people are unique, and you may have tendencies in particular areas and certain ways of doing things, but we all do things the same as well. Now, when you look at, the different personality types, the other big subcategory as well then, right, is sex, of course, right? Men and women, right? And different approaches on how these things are done. And part of this is, and there's different people who talk about this on the internet. So Jordan Peterson, for example, and things like this, where there's tendencies within groups, right? But 80% of things are in common, right? There's just certain ways of approaching things, but you always still have to come back to the individual. And part of that, and I think that's why groups like Women in Food Safety are important, because it helps then to share that information, just like food safety, and calibrate around those type of activities so that you can be successful. Because I know I'm an introvert. I'm a super introvert. And what's interesting, what's that?
Can tell.
well, that's the ironic thing with introverts. I have no problem at all getting up in front of a group and talking with people and explaining information and talking about things like this that are interesting and exciting to me. You get me in a one-on-one conversation at a cocktail party or whatever. No. I'm going for the door, right? That for me is torture. Some people, extroverts, right? They love it, right? They get their energy and I'm going to the NCAA tournament. Rah, rah, rah. For me, it's just like, no, I don't, right? And there's those overall categories. And part of this is that as you're a woman working in this field, right? And I'd love to hear your thoughts around this. As you go up, there's frustrations, right? Because you're dealing with these other personality types and other sexes and things like this that have different ways as an overall group of dealing with things, right?
Yeah, well, I completely agree. Different people are different. Within my team, we have five different, we almost cover all the different personalities. But I think that as a leader, it's quite important you learn from them. You observe how they work, and then you assign the works accordingly to what they're good at based on their personalities. I think that's one thing leader could help to bound the team and then utilize the personality. Try not to put the signs on each person, but sometimes when you utilize their personality along with the work they got assigned, they give you 200% outcome of the project. So if someone is introvert and really good at each to-do list, give them something like that. Review the corrective action report, review the audit report. They will be phenomenal in that way. But if you assign, can you help me to arrange a team bounding event? That probably might not work for that introvert. So as a leader, I think that's more important that you learn, you work with the people, give them the support, and then have them do what they're good at to do. And ultimately the team will function as it is. And then they don't need a leader. That's my philosophy. A functioning team ultimately can run their own itself.
Beautifully said. And something in there I want to kind of pull out to make sure everybody that caught, because you said it almost as kind of a throwaway, but people don't recognize this a lot of times, is you said within your team, there's all kinds of different styles and personality. Perfect, right? There's a tendency. So I'm an analytical introvert. I love other analytical introverts, right? Oh, show me the data. What's the CPK on this? What type of a trend scale do we have going? And say, okay, great, right? If you just hire everybody who's like you, nothing's going to get done, right? Because you're going to have a bunch of analytical people sitting around all day analyzing things and nothing gets done. You need extroverts, you need introverts, you need analyticals and all these type of things on your teams to manage this. And it's something when you're in a hiring role, you need to be very, very careful about, because if you end up hiring a bunch of people like that, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, in some fields, right, and it's kind of interesting, if you're working, let's say you're an engineer, right? Now, all of a sudden, it becomes much more difficult because now you have to try and find those balances within those. May be possible, it may not. And so part of this too is statistics, right? So if you have a small company with a small sample size, you may end up in that position. So if you do right? You have to be aware of that and manage to that. Again, back to your point, Melody. Once you're in a management role, it's about the people and the teams more than the work.
It really is. And then the higher you go, I mean, personally, I'm still learning. I learn a lot from my peer VPs. The higher you go, it's all about how you communicate up, how you communicate down, what kind of language you use when you communicate, what kind of topics. It's really case by case. Because we all know for food safety and quality head, to communicate up for safety culture, for quality culture, that's another layer of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I think learning more from the people, learning there are different personalities, different ways of working, different ways of thinking. For my particular role, there's different country culture. Like my plants are outside of the United States. So the soft skill becomes more and more impact your daily work.
Oh, 100%. And that reminds me of a really great example from my past. Is so one of my early management roles. So I was dealing a lot with exported products going to Japan, and oh my goodness, different culture, right? In how they deal with business and how they deal with issues, completely different. And it was fascinating. So you'll probably recognize this. I'll just pull out your business card, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
In Japanese culture, you are your business card. And it must be handed over with the correct reverence. You have to read the entire business card. You have to
Mhm,
study it, place it in front of you to show respect.
mhm.
Huge insult, right? In the US, business card, whatever, right? Hey, here's my business card. And if you're dealing with a Japanese client and you show disrespect to that card, you're showing disrespect to them. And oh my goodness, that everything's going to go downhill from there. And you have no idea why. Those
Mhm.
little differences like that, super important. And I learned a ton about that from dealing with that market. Cheryl had a very good observation here, Melody. I'd like to get your opinion on. So Cheryl said, technical skills are fantastic to have, no doubt. In some small companies, being part of mid-level management can be a baptism by fire.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So big challenge, right? So let's say, for example, you're working in a small company and you've been promoted and you're the only woman on the management team, and the owner of the company has been doing this for 40 years and he's kind of set in his ways, right? And now all of a sudden, there's somebody on his management team with a different personality style that he's not used to dealing with, right? That can be very challenging.
Yes, that is very challenging. um, but however, I would say um, the higher you go, all the leaderships there are meant to be good for business. So first of all, we don't look at ourselves as, oh, I'm an outlier, I'm a woman, I
Mhm.
am different here as a group. No, you are a functional department head leader, also supporting other functioning to have the business go well to the direction.
Mhm.
Be confident, I will say, is the first thing for women to get a step ahead. Um, and another thing is, I do encourage all the male leaders out there to realize nowadays there are more and more women leaderships go out there. It's different.
Mhm.
Um, it's a different style of leadership. It's not female or male. That's my philosophy. I'm advocate for female to get out there, but
Yeah.
ultimately it's a leadership style. Beforehand, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's a male dominant leaders world. So the male's leadership becomes the leadership style that everyone is familiar with. But now with we have more and more female leaders, we still need more in that
Mhm.
room, in the executive table. It's a different leadership style. We talk differently, we think differently, but there's no difference that our capacity, like our competency, is definitely um, strong enough to grab a seat over there. So for female out there, like if there are only one female on the table, be confident. You're there
Mhm.
for a reason. Don't look at yourself as different and be vocal. This is
Yeah.
my department. This is the decision I made. Be strong. And Male has to one point realize there is another leadership style out there, that we work together. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, we are encouraging more and more female leadership, but ultimately, I think it is leadership. Leaders are leaders.
Mhm.
Leaders with different management style.
Yeah, absolutely. There's what's that saying? Yeah, there's many paths to the top of the mountain, right? And it's no different than different personality styles. There's different ways of doing things. The end result is the same, and those different perspectives help. And there's no one answer, right, for these type of issues. And when a company is working on a challenge, how do we get into this new client? How do we deal with this quality complaint? How do we deal with these regulatory issues and things like that? The more viewpoints you have discussing this, and to your point, being able then to have a position and explain it and defend it, that's what companies want and need. And we need more of that.
Yeah, yeah. For me, for my personal experience, I mean, um, I had a lot of conflict discussion. I wouldn't say argument, but conflict discussion with the boss or male leaders. But those are good for the business, and they have to understand it's not because of a female. It's
Mhm.
because I am sitting in a role that I have to defend my functioning team to support the business.
Right.
That it's a two-way works. And then right now we just need to encourage other parties, leaders, be open-minded because we have more and more female leaderships going to grow in that executive room.
Mhm. Austin asked a very interesting question here, Melody. Can you discuss what different leadership styles may look like? Oh, good one. Good one.
Well, different leadership style. Well, there are so many different. There are people cares about people the leadership style. There's people cares about mission. Let's just do it. There's people. Uh, well, I don't know how to.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's consensus builders and yeah, go getters who write and it's like, oh, I'll do this all on my own, right? And then they go out there and they try and
There are there are people like leaders I've experienced that, no, you got to do my way.
Mhm.
There's leaders because he or she might be experienced. They're like, this is the way you got. But there are leaders let the team try different new ways. There might be fail, there might be success, but the outcome could be something different.
Yeah.
Um, and then there are different ways of leaders solving the issues depending on which position you are at. Um, there, leaders doesn't want to take any risks.
Mhm.
Leaders do proper risk assess and then do the minimize and then find a balance to find the most balanced solution. Um, I would say I don't know the name of each style, but it really depends on the leaders themselves.
Right. And yeah, the figuring out these different tendencies in your coworkers is really important, right? To your point, risk adverse versus risk tolerant. Yeah, so you may have somebody who wants to charge straight ahead without really taking all the considerations into play. And this is why, and I think this is why Austin asked such a good question, is you need to have a balance, right? If you have a team full of people who are like, let's charge ahead and we'll see what happens, and full speed ahead, damn the torpedoes, all those type of sayings, right? If everybody on the team does that, you're headed to disaster. You need other people who are going to say, well, we need to think about this before we do that, right? And that balance is super necessary. And here's my perspective. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then I could think of an easy thing I saw is there are leaders loves to talk first, and there
Mhm.
are leaders loves to talk last and
Yeah.
have the team talk first. These are completely two different type of leaders.
I'm the second one. I'm the second one. I want to get everybody's input. And that's an important, from my viewpoint, right? There's many different ways of doing this, but when you ask people why, here's why I do that, right? That shows respect, right? I want to be able to show my team that I value their input and that what they do is important. My goal and my objective as a leader in an organization, a team, is I want to build more leaders, right? there's other things I want to do and move on to. I want to build up the team and give them the skills that then hopefully they'll be able to replace me at some point in time. And one of the things that I'm super proud of in my career is the number of people I've been able to help grow into director and vice president and senior vice president roles within companies. And it's beyond coworker, right? I know I consider those people my friends, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, and another thing I thought about it, because I was thinking about the comment on your being the only female. I had a conversation with John Carter last year. Sometimes people doesn't realize the different vibes. Because I would encourage you, like a male employee, to walk in a female room, like a conference room that like the majority are female, and then see how they discuss, and you will instantly realize the unconscious bias there. Like you will instantly realize, oh, people solving problems are differently, and that's how a female walk in a male room feel. Because there's nothing right or wrong, you know. It's just we are different. The way we solve the problem, the way we look at an issue, the way we try to solve a issue together, it's different. So try it. Try walking a conference room, only have female, have them talk about food safety, and then instantly you will realize, you will feel the different vibe. If that helps explain.
No, that's a great example, right? So not even necessarily male, female. I'm an introvert and I walk into a room full of extroverts. Oh,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Completely different vibe. It's different.
Everyone needs to have an open-minded that different people doing things differently, and it's not always one way.
Yeah.
And in particular, in a leader's role, because of we have so many male leadership coming along, it's sort of become a habitual. Oh, leaders are look like that, but we don't know. We have now more and more female CEOs. We need more, and that's women in food safety are.
Yeah, one of the main clients I work with has a female CEO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and her background is engineering, so an analytical CEO, right? So she has a very definitive style, and when I started working with company, I had to learn her style, right? So it's very important to figure that out. It doesn't matter, right? You hear about this phrase managing up, right? And so people make a lot of mistakes, and there's this false belief too, Melody, that, oh, I'm being fake. No. What you're doing when you're working with someone and you understand their styles, you're sharing information with them in a way that they understand. And that's important to get, right? If I am dealing with extroverts or somebody who's an outgoing person who loves going to sporting events and these types of things, I need to understand their style and talk with them in a way that information is going to be conveyed with them. If I talk with them and say, well, clearly on this graph here, you can see the trend data associated with it, they're going to be like this, right? They're going to, they're going to start, getting their phone, and very quickly, right? That's boring to them, right? That's not the method that they want to receive the information. You have to understand that. And I'm sure Austin, with his training business he has at Sage Media, has a lot of information on that, right? Everything that he's doing around that field is understanding and conveying information in the correct style. One of the things, and one of the benchmarks that I've looked at as well, Melody, is am I consistent? And that's an important thing too, right? I am who I am. And as you get older, you understand that. And one of the things that I strive for is I want to be consistent enough in my thought process and my decision making that when people come to visit me and ask me for a decision, they already know what I'm going to say. And they're going to say, yep. And off they go. And ideally, what I'm doing in those situations is, okay, great. You have a problem. Bring that to me. Let's talk about it. Now, what would you like to do? What do you think is the correct path forward? Right. And so that helps develop their skill set for this too. There's nothing worse. And I'm sure you hate this too, right? This just makes me cringe. If people come to me and say, Bryan, I have a problem, and then they sit back, they want me to solve their problem. No. How does that benefit anything? All they're doing is giving you their problem. And that's, if you let people do that, they'll do that all day long, right? Because then they can walk away. Cool, Bryan will solve it. right? Now you end up with a day full of stress and problems because people give you their problems. That's not beneficial to them, and it's not beneficial to you.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm glad you brought it up, consistency, because I was gonna share that as well when you manage up, because ultimately your boss is learning from you as well. So if you're consistent in the way, and then he will get used to your style, and you two work out a good relationship when you manage up. Manage up is always not easy, but be who you are and be consistent and then communicate the point across the table. Eventually two of you will meet in middle. Yeah.
Exactly. And in the field that we work in food safety and quality assurance, that consistency is even more important because you are the face of food safety in the company. And you're the person who is defending that moral position, right? And that's what's really unique about what we do is we are defending consumers. We are defending the people who enjoy and love our products. We are making sure that that they're happy with our products and that our products are always safe. And when those promises to the consumers are broken, we're the main group who then needs to have those linkages in place ahead of time to be able to defend and reach that right conclusion, because that's when the pressure's on, right? So there's a food safety crisis and everybody in the company is scared. Everybody is worried. Nobody knows what's going on. They're looking to us to say, we have this, right? We will figure this out. We will determine the correct course of action and we'll move forward. And then everybody goes, right? That's leadership.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, male, female, introvert, extrovert, it does not matter. That person needs to become that symbol. And that's very important.
Yep. Agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So Cheryl had another comment here as well. Oftentimes I was the only female in the plant, meeting or conference room, but I was always accepted as one of them. Great.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's lucky. We still have people have challenges to that, but that's perfect. Yeah.
Well, and again, too, that cultural aspect is so important. So we were kind of talking about Japanese companies, but also French companies. I've worked and managed quality assurance at large French companies. The French, very different style. So, French companies are largely male dominated. And I think the culture in these companies built out of that. Now I worked for two large French food companies, very different styles, but there was still this underlying comparisons melody where one company was very aggressive and operations was very much in charge of manufacturing and leading the company, male dominant. And their way of working on things, and this is part of French culture too, was let's argue and fight about stuff for a while. We'll reach a conclusion to that arguing and fighting. And then after the decision is made, everything is forgotten. It's like, okay, fight. And then at the end of the discussion, the CEO or whoever it was in charge would say, okay, let's go to lunch. And when I first encountered that culture, I was like, whoa. Yeah, people have been fighting and yelling and attacking me for the last hour, and now we're all friends again. And if you're familiar with French culture, you'll know this right away. It cracks me up because when I deal with my friends and my French friends and things like this, you see this pop up time and time again. The French like to do this, right? Bon, right? It's like, okay, right? It's kind of their shorthand for okay, now we move forward, right? And until you understand that. Right. If I was trying to force American culture into a French company, no, it does not work. You have to understand what you're dealing with.
That's a very interesting story. I experienced it. Well, so first of all, I think that purely depends on personality and also a common foundation of trust and culture within the company. So people wouldn't take things personally. They are discussing business. And if we have a foundation of that, a trust, open communication, and then no personal feelings, a conflict sometimes works more effectively. I think my personal opinion, because conflict drives discussion. Discussion drives new idea. New ideas, sometimes those new ideas are out of the box. Because people are thinking, people are hyper, trying to defend themselves, their functions. As long as we are setting a baseline, nothing impersonal, open trust team, conflict might not be a bad idea. Sometimes it gives you unexpected sparkle in the project.
Ah, I love that unexpected sparkle. That's beautiful, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's great that you presented that alternate perspective, right? Because the alternative to that is a company where everybody just agrees, right? Yes, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, okay, and they really don't agree. Now you've got hidden conflict that's not being brought out, and
And
so
then
then
that
that.
will exactly, and then that you will get you back when executing it.
Yep, yep, and it's going to grow and fester, and it's going to blow up at some point.
Mhm.
And it all comes back to, right, all of these discussions of large categories are just that, right? When it all comes down to it, we're all people, right? We're all individuals, we're all unique, and we all have our own styles. And part of that then too is this is something I learned through leadership classes and things that I've taken in the past, and it really stuck with me, is we all have blind spots. There's things that we do that people pick up on like that, right? You meet a new person within 5 minutes, and that's people. That's how our brains work as human beings. It's part of our evolutionary processes for survival, right? We size people up. We understand very, very quickly their tendencies. And I'll share one of mine early on that I had no idea I do. I've talked about this a little bit before on the chat. When I'm working hard, Melody, and I'm really thinking about something, right? As you know, you know exactly what I'm thinking. If you know me, you know exactly what I'm thinking because I have a very expressive face when I'm working through things. And when I'm sitting in a computer, I'm analytical. I'm thinking. I'm really, really focused in on that. I'm in the zone, right? I'm flowing with whatever I'm doing. And what I didn't know is my face when I was doing this would look like this, right?
Oh,
Mad, angry. That's what people saw when they looked at me. And so I had an office that the desk faced the window, the front door. I had a big window, and then people would walk in and they would look directly at me, and they would turn the corner, and they would look at me and go, "Oh, whoa, I'm not going in there. He's going to yell at me. Oh no." And then I didn't know that. And so I
yeah,
had to consciously work on that. Now, when I'm working, I would still have that face. But when I would look up and I would see somebody coming, I would have to change that. Right? Hey, how you doing? Come on in. What you got? Right? And welcome them into my office so that they knew it was a safe environment and I wasn't angry or mad. Right?
yep.
Without having that external perspective where somebody told me that, I would have had this issue my entire career, and people would not communicate with me and I wouldn't have known why. Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's small things like that does make a difference, like a huge impact, actually. Yeah,
Like a what?
like a huge impact.
Oh
Like
God,
small
yeah.
things will make a huge impact. Yeah.
Exactly. So Stephen had a comment here. Thank you, Stephen. Welcome to the chat. Spent 2 weeks at the Fortune 50 food company, and the entire leadership team was female. The collaboration was great. The team handled everything well. Was made up of engineers, safety professionals, and the VP. Very challenging project. Oh, and the rest of the comment, I can't see the rest of the comment, but I must. Oh, it cut
Yeah.
off, but I think we get the general gist of it. Yeah, there's a word limit here, but cool, right? And I'm sure that was an amazing experience for him, and he's probably taken with him moving forward, saying, "Ah, okay." To your point, Melody, it's just a different way of focusing and looking at the work. It's not right,
Yeah.
it's not wrong. It's just a different perspective, and that's very important.
Exactly. And I really like Don's comment. And he said, I had a QA manager who dressed down for the job. So they take her seriously for her brain. And well, it's, oh, I misread a little bit, but it is important the way how you look. I mean,
Mhm.
I actually interpret in a different perspective because I was thinking when we were building the culture, when I go to the plant, how I dress, it's very important for the line worker to look at. I typically dress the way my line worker, how they dress.
Mhm.
They have a work uniform, they have their own uniform, and I dress like the way they do. So they don't look at me as a high up, but we look at each other as, oh, she's here as one of us to help us build this culture. It is quite it's quite important in some circumstances how you dress, how you engage your audience, how you wear their shoes.
Right. Well, I mean, even across all businesses, there's a saying for that, right? Saying, "Oh, it's the suits," right? The
Yeah,
people, yeah,
right. Yeah.
you got your
And they
suit.
and then they instantly close. They don't share their real thoughts. And then that's a food safety leader doesn't want to see. You want to hear the true operation, daily production story so you can apply practical solutions for them.
Right. And in our industry, in food manufacturing and all these type of things that most of the people on this call are involved with, is guess what? Where the real work happens and where the money is made is in the plant. It's not corporate, right? It's in the plant. If we don't have products to sell, if we don't have wonderful products that people love and we make it the same all the time and it's safe, nothing else matters, right? So you need to be able to get out on the floor, talk with the people in receiving and say, hey, how are you guys doing with receiving? How do all these things work? And if they don't trust you and open up and talk with you about their problems, if they're worried that, oh, okay, if I talk with Bryan when he comes in the plant, I'm going to get in trouble, it's all bets are off, and
It's a
you'll never
bad
get
foundation.
anywhere.
Yeah, it's a bad foundation for food safety culture.
Yeah.
However, to achieve that open communication, it takes a lot of trust, a lot of teams buying, other departments heads buying. Um, yeah, it's not an overnight project.
Right. And there's also one of the critical lessons I learned on this as well is the most important relationship for that employee is not you, it's his boss. Right. So if I'm a receiver, my supervisor is the most important relationship I have. That person controls my future, my destiny, right? They're the person who evaluates me. They're the person that assigns my schedule. If my supervisor doesn't like me, I have a very bad work environment, right? They're going to make my life very difficult. So you need to understand that relationship. And the lesson I learned around this was that if I go into production facilities, they see me, if I have a bunch of plants and I go around and visit my plants, they may see me once a quarter. And if I go in there barking orders and put on your hairnet and wash your hands better and all these type of things, and then I go away and fly back to corporate or whatever, I do more damage than good.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the person I yelled at goes, who was that? Oh, that's the vice president of quality. You won't see him for a while. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Versus understanding that relationship and talking with the supervisor and say, I was in your area getting a tour. Beautiful. I like how you're doing things. How's your GMP controls? Oh, my team is amazing. Well, I was seeing some people who weren't wearing their hairnets quite right. Can you help me with that? That's how you manage that, right? Because now I leave and the supervisor is like, oh, okay, that's not good, right? I need to work more with my team. So then he's the person who's responsible for that training, not me. That's culture, right? And our job, and it's amazing how all these things circle back, right, Melody? That's how you build cultures. It's that relationship, right? Rules are rules, but if people don't understand the rules and people don't agree with the rules and actually teach others the rules, they don't matter, right? We have this false belief in quality that if we write things down in a document and give it to people, that they're going to do it. Nope. You have to tell them why. You have to get their input. You have to understand their perspective. And that's leadership. And it doesn't matter, introvert, expert, male, female, it doesn't matter, right? You need to be able to convey that information. If you don't learn that lesson, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, and then also another thing important if we talk about culture is find your sponsors. So a lot of time, like when you go to executive team meetings, all the department head, um, have other department talk for you about food safety, rather than comes from direct food safety and quality director, because that's crucial, and that words 10 times then, and then all the executives work as a team, and that will help you manage up and then establish the culture. Yeah.
What she just said right there was pure gold. That was beautiful. I love that. If you want to see if people understand what you're telling them, ask them to reflect it back. And as yourself, that's a good thing to do, is when someone shares information with you, okay, let me see if I understand what you're telling me, and reflect that back. And what you just said then too is, okay, what does food safety culture mean to you? Tell me what you think it is. How does what I say translate to what you're seeing and what you're thinking and what you're feeling in these areas? Super important. Thank you. I think what you just said there, this entire chat, that right there was the most important thing.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Megan had a question here. What suggestions do you have to overcome those leaders in various roles that have large egos and those who feel know it all, even though they don't, to get your message through? We've all dealt with these people, haven't we?
Yeah, well, yeah, we all know we have that experience. But however, it is, I think sometimes you don't have to confront at the moment. Let's table it. Let's change the topic, and the next time, come back, use more fact, and then bring back to the solution. Because keep in mind, we're not working against the person who has ego. We are finding a solution for the business.
Right.
So ultimately, as long as your solution is based on fact and then help the business, that person's idea might just disappear himself, you know? Secondly is, I think ask questions is more than, it could work better than give a statement. If you really think he has something that is not true or doesn't agree, you're not, continue to ask questions like how you find root cause.
Yeah.
How come is that? Where did you get that? When was the news talk about? Oh, does it work before? Like more of the question to lead him talk. Eventually, it will dilute. Again, we're not working against the person who has the ego. We're finding a solution for the business to success.
And part of this is learning the personality of the person you're talking with. An example from my past is I was a young supervisor type level person, and he was a big vice president within the company. I dealt with him a lot on technical issues. And what I figured out early on is he had lots of things on his mind. And if I would be telling him something, Melody, and he started doing this, he was tuned out. He was completely tuned out. And there's a really valuable lesson I learned from Tony Robbins early on. And so what you're kind of hearing, what I'm weaving into this too, is you need to develop too, right? You need to figure these things out. So Tony Robbins would say, if people get into their patterns, right? We have patterns and ways that we do things, and we get caught in those grooves on those records. You have to interrupt those patterns. And so what I would do with this vice president, I would change the subject. I would talk about something completely different. Hey, did you see the sports game this weekend? And all of a sudden, and then he would come back, and then I could continue the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. But if I didn't understand that, everything I had said once he started going was lost. Right? You have to understand the personality style.
That's very crucial. That's a very good example. If once you experienced that, I think as a food safety professionals, let's just table it. Let's come back next time when he has more time and interest. Let's revamp this topic as well. That's another approach. If you can catch the attention again, that's perfect. If not, let's table it. If it's a resource meeting, and then the next day, let's come back to discuss it further.
Exactly. Well, and I want to circle back to what you had mentioned earlier, because I think we kind of glossed over it, and it's very important, is mentorship, right? So if you have other people in your company or even outside your company, it doesn't matter, that you can talk about these things with. Hey, listen, I'm dealing with a very combative, I know everything, you need to do what I need to do, tell you to do personality type. Mentorships can help you work through those things, right? No one has all the answers. And if you think you do, you're in trouble, right? You don't. Yeah. No one does. You need to be able to have good resources that you can go to and talk about these things. That's why I love your group, Women in Food Safety on LinkedIn, right? It provides avenues for people to talk about these things. What are we doing right now, right? We're talking about these things, and we're helping other people work through these.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
I'm just looking at the comments here. Oh yeah, the great comments. Thanks, Don, for sharing on that, right? Um, and so part of it too, and this gets into those tendency pieces too. You see this a lot in companies too. A lot of the detail work within companies, inspections and things like this. You tend to have, a lot of female employees in those areas because they have very good skill sets in those areas, right? It's not because they were shunted in those areas, right? People have preferences just like personalities and things like this. And so those are skill sets that are really important in what we do, right? So use those, right?
Yeah. And then another thing I would like to share, it's a different topic, but I feel like a lot of food safety professionals have, because we are heroes. We put a lot of things and everything on our own shoulder, responsibility to protect our consumers. If we do our job all right, people probably wouldn't think about us exist, like IT department, right? If a computer doesn't get broken, you wouldn't go to IT. But if we change a mindset in a different way, I think sometimes let the problem review and invite your boss and other department functioning head to solve the problem together with you might help. So share your urgency with all the company and other functioning department. It's like, if I were to use an example, it's like there's raining out there and you have an umbrella with you. You use your umbrella, protect the rain, and all of your department head, the company is under the umbrella. However, they might not know it's raining, first of all. They also might not know you had the umbrella. So they don't know. It just, for them, it's a normal, good weather day. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes it might not be bad idea for your team member and other department to know, it's raining heavily out there and we have an umbrella, we have a practices, and have them go through the challenge with you. If they experienced once, you're later, all those communication, food safety culture, they will know, oh my God, remember that day we were all in a conference room, discuss all these. That works more than, I'm here to give you another training materials. I'm here to give you, let them experience the rain. I think sometimes that will help as well to establish a food safety culture.
So one of the things that I've developed over my career is kind of a different sayings associated with these type of things, right? So two sayings I pulled out of what you just said. So let me reflect this back to you and see if I got this right. Is number one is sometimes within quality assurance, we need to allow others to experience pain, right? We're too quality people, food safety people, right? We're very highly motivated with doing the right things and making sure that things are correct. And if other people don't see that and everything gets taken care of, as we talked about earlier, then they don't even really think about it. But if there's pain associated with an issue, now all of a sudden everybody sees it. And if they're experiencing pain in that area, it becomes personal. And that then becomes a shared experience. And that helps build bonds as well. So don't feel like you have to take everything on. Not everything is your fault. The other key piece I pulled out of what you talked about is you don't work for a company, you work for a boss. The boss is much, much, much more important than the company. If you have a good boss and the company's kind of okay, your experience is going to be very different than working for a good company where you have a bad boss who doesn't support you and gives you bad evaluations, and you can never figure out what they're thinking, and they tend to yell at you for who knows what reason, right? That's a very uncomfortable position to be in. And again, people are people. And can you change other people's personalities? No, absolutely not, right? So sometimes you may have to look at these things and say, okay, right, maybe this isn't right for me, right? And that's not a loss, right? You have to find the right place for you.
Yeah, right? It is. There's a lot of options out there. And then if you get a no here, there's another yes somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like salespeople say, right? It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, right? And you need to, and this is something, again, as you get older and you understand yourself more and more, and you become more comfortable with who you are, you understand these things clearer and clearer. And building out their relationship is very important. If you are, let's say there's a new job that you're potentially interested in, and you're talking with that company and they're asking you questions and they're trying to determine if you're the right fit, guess what? You need to be determining if they are the right fit for you. That's very important. And if it's not, that's fine, right? If that's not right for you, that's not right for you. Don't feel like you have to take that, right? That causes a whole lot of pain in people's lives.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then I just thought about it. It's somewhat related to what you just said. Is I think a good leader is I think giving out a good a compliment and a fact criticism is equally important. And that way you are helping your team member as well to see if this is really fit in them, or like they are equally important.
Yes. Yeah, and so we'll kind of bring this back to the 50,000, 30,000 foot level here with this talk, because time flew here today. Amazing comments from people. Thank you. I love this. Part of this to remember is everybody's people, right? So something that may be used for you to take away from this, and it doesn't really matter if you're in a management position or not. How much do you actually know about the people you work with? Do you know the names of their spouses? Do they have children? What do they like to do? There's more to the people you work with than just the job. And if you show people that you care, they're much more easy to work with, because everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants to understand these things. And there may be things going on. So let's say that earlier example of that person who's difficult to work with and angry or something like this. What's going on in their lives? Maybe they have a spouse who is sick or going through cancer. Who knows, right? There's other things, right? And let's say, for example, you deal with that and you don't understand that, right? You're going to feel kind of bad later on too. So Robert's asking for some insights from Melody. Thank you, Robert. So Don asked a question, Melody. I'm going to throw this over to you. Do women like to work for women bosses?
Of course. Yeah, I have an amazing woman boss when I first started, and she sets the tone how a female leadership it is. And every time I call her name, Lian Chabaf, that's my like a first. She's also my mentor. I do enjoy working for a male boss. Again, leaders are different leader styles, and I enjoy both. Yeah, of course I enjoyed working for female bosses. And now my boss is a male, and I still enjoy working with him. It's a different. We kind of our skill sets is like the opposite. We compromise each other during the work relationship. So.
Yep, there's one of my clients that I work with quite a bit. Almost everyone on the quality team is female, and the CEO of the company is female. We work great. They do amazing work, right? And the CEO of the company is doing a great job.
Yeah.
I don't care, right? She's great. So let's kind of bring this to closure. Gosh, I wish we could talk about this more. This is.
I've already got my golden nuggets. So
yeah.
I do want to. I think I thought about it. What you just said. People is extremely important. Learn from your team. Find what's motivate them, and let them proactively work for the team. Rather, that works more effective than you tell them what to do. Find their own motivation. Each people has different people has different motivation for work, why they're here for the position. And if you can utilize that, give them the motivation, use their motivation, you will have a functioning team.
Yep, absolutely. So again, right? So on LinkedIn, Melody has an amazing group, Women in Food Safety. Just, look it up and you can join that group and start developing those mentorship relationships. So we're going to close out the chat here. One of the things, I did want to bring to a couple of things attention from my side as well, is I have a locals group. It's free, so locals.com. And if you go there and look for the food leadership group, you'll be able to sign up, and I send out notifications on information that we need, recalls and all these type of things. Next week as well, I'm very happy that I'm a guest with Dr. Marshall at Eurofins and a couple of other people. And we're going to be doing a webinar on the 23rd on food safety tech hazard. This is a series, and we're going to be talking about preparing for and responding to contamination events. And I try to put links in this live stream, and I think it normally doesn't work, but I'm going to try anyway. So the webinar is free, and so it's going to be amazing. It's on the 23rd, next Thursday. And then, of course, next Friday, we're back for the next chat. And I got to tell you, this was a home run chat, Melody. Thank you. This was so much fun. This is a really good conversation. And thank you to everybody in the audience. And again, we appreciate you taking time out of your day to invest in your skills, develop your network, and help promote food safety, right? Because that's what it's all about, is making sure that people love what we make and that they're safe when they do it. Bryan, what's the easiest way to share this recording of this session to my team? So one of the things, thanks for that, Steve. So this is live streamed on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where this is posted as well. I'm also going through all of these chats, and I'm arranging these chats by topic and category. And so obviously a ton of work associated with this, but I think it's worth it, right? Because all these insights and expertise from these guests, I think, is really great. So hopefully there'll be something coming on that as well too, Steve. So stay tuned for that. So everybody, thanks again. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great time. Relax, recharge. And oh gosh, all these good comments keep coming. Empathy, good comment. That's a great word to end with, Karen. Empathy. I love that.
Again,
so,
it's different leadership. Yeah, it's all about leadership style, regardless your gender. It's how you care about your people.
Absolutely. So please come back here next week on Friday at the same time. So 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Sorry, West Coast people, for the next food safety chat. We'll have another amazing guest on the show. So thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Melody. Greatly appreciated. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.